Sam's gone. Goodbye.
Perfect, because we're live. Welcome to episode 2. All
We're
right.
live?
All right, boys.
Yeah, we are live.
We're live. Okay, excellent.
It's been 1 week, and the ironic part is how we ended episode 1, because we had Sam do it. How'd you do it, Sam? It's your stupid PewDiePie thing. It's because of Sam.
it
It's
is
really, like, we've influenced the entire internet because of Sam's retarded fist. PewDiePie has been called a Nazi.
Foreshadowing.
that
yeah.
was
They
definitely.
call me Samuel the Prophet.
Yeah, one Jew puts up a fist, and the entire internet goes crazy.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
let's
I had the power.
let's go into this because Wall Street Journal really shit the bed basically. Brock, I'll give you the soapbox here. Let's get into PewDiePie.
Okay. Well, I don't have the direct article here, but a general overview, if the viewers aren't already aware. The Wall Street Journal sent out 3 journalists or writers, I think they are actually, and they went to investigate PewDiePie because he's all sketchy and stuff, right? So they went to investigate him, and they looked at some of his videos, and they found some anti-Semitic imagery within them, and it was absolutely awful, terrible stuff, hate speech, all of it. So they took these videos, they kind of looked at it, they kind of compiled them, gathered their evidence, and then they took their evidence to to PewDiePie sponsors. One is Disney, and the other, of course, is YouTube.
And Maker's Studio is like the subsidiary of Disney that he's a part of.
Right. That's, I don't know. All I know is eventually it reached Disney, which is eventually somehow connected. But yeah, so Wall Street Journal took that information to these sponsors, and they have, or at least Disney has now cut ties with PewDiePie as much as it can, really. There's been a ton of backlash. There has been, YouTube hasn't dropped PewDiePie.
No, they have.
Well, maybe explain what happened for people that don't really know about what he actually did.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of stuff to say about the results, but what he did,
Just Cole's version.
the what? Sorry.
Like the Cole's Notes version.
Cole's Notes version.
Well, that's the difficult part. That's where people misconstrue it, given these Cole's Notes versions of he made a video at some point where he was making fun of the media. This is one example of the many things they fucked up with him. They took one video he did where he was making fun of the media, being like, they take everything out of context. Watch this. And then he dresses up as a military officer from the point of view reacting to a Hitler speech like, this is good. And he's like, if the media took that out of context, they'd call me a Nazi. This was maybe 6 months ago, and Wall Street Journal did the exact thing. They took that thing out of context. So you can't really do a Cole's Note version of the thing because it's such a complex machine of things. Because they cut stuff out of the things he did. Everything he did was satirical and satire.
Well, the news has to be quick. Like, they can't spend time building up context a lot of times with their stories. So
no, that's the exact.
In those situations, they should probably kind of just stay away from those things potentially.
No, they don't need to be quick. They need to be right. They were going like witch hunting this guy for a reason.
Yeah.
They should summarize. They should have a good understanding. They should be able to quickly summarize it in a short article.
Yeah.
But it should still be right.
Yeah, they should have enough good people in place that are good at their job that they could do that. It's a lot of it's laziness, I think.
No, it's not laziness. They went out of their way to do this. They took months.
No, they're not. They're taking it out of context, and that's laziness. They're not actually realizing what it actually is first before they publish the story.
Yeah, but they're doing it on purpose. They went out to get PewDiePie. He's the largest guy on YouTube, and the standard media outside of it, like the commercial media, is threatened by the internet, basically. So they're going after the head. They're trying to cut off the head of this beast that is the internet. And they went into months of going through his videos and seeing what they could misconstrue to get Johnny's grandma off on CJ92 listening, be like, oh, PewDiePie's a Nazi.
What's their motive for that? Just a bigger story?
Any readers and
because he's like the biggest guy. If you knock him down, then that's a big story. Is that the motivation?
Yeah, well, then
part of it,
and tons of articles that come out like just following the big outcry from the internet is being like the big fall of the internet, but really like it's just people are saying the exact opposite of what is happening. He's grown he's gained, and the internet's just stronger. Like there's tons of other people on the internet that did what should have been done and explained the proper thing. They did this on purpose. It wasn't laziness and be like, whoops, I dropped the ball there. They purposely drop kicked that fucking ball.
Yeah.
It's
What's your take, Brock?
sorry.
What's your take?
Well, basically, my take is that I mean, I look at the news, and I have a Google app and for the news, and it shows me a whole bunch of regular newspapers and kind of goes over there, and so it's kind of like the mainstream media as opposed to kind of less so the internet online versions, and a lot of that, like I haven't found one pro PewDiePie article. It's all been against him. So
Well,
like I was asked earlier, Sam asked me earlier about, you know, I think it was something along the lines of what does the media say about it and stuff. Like surely some people realize that this isn't true about PewDiePie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And surely everyone knows that. And to Sam I said, no, I mean, like, if you're a YouTuber, if you're an internet denizen, you probably do have an idea of what's going on. You kind of see the conflict of interest and everything, but otherwise, no, this really, basically people can just say, take this and like, oh, this is, you know, they have a video of PewDiePie and then he's looking at Nazi imagery. And it's like, oh, they're brainwashing him, our kids. But it's just taken so out of context. It's so intellectually dishonest, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it is very convincing for the people who aren't a part of everything. So really,
That's
it's
an issue nowadays. People just they're sheep, and they blindly follow stuff and they don't have critical thinking skills and think for themselves. And that's what universities are supposed to do. They're supposed to bring up these critical thinking skills, but they're doing a shit job lately.
Well, here's the thing. You were talking about pro PewDiePie articles and negative ones pertaining to this case. Outside of modern media, like the classic media, everyone's supporting him. They're basically like the general reaction is like, how? Like, what are you talking about? But inside,
because of all of his followers.
no, outside of Australia, just like
Naturally,
the
you're gonna
internet
back him up.
community, really. The internet community is just like any rational thinker is like, this is bullshit. But it's that classic media that is just like, in PewDiePie's, like he made a video acknowledging like his mistakes, maybe his humor, like he's learning how to be a comedian and maybe he needs to learn how to adjust at pushing the boundaries that he wants to push. And then Wall Street Journal right here releases another article where like he accuses him of being like, you took the thing I said you would take out of context and you took it out of context. And then in their title they say, PewDiePie says the Wall Street Journal is out to get him. Yeah, you fucking are. Are you dumb?
And not only that, but in that specific video, PewDiePie actually apologized, like legit apologized. He didn't even say, oh, maybe I did something wrong. He was outright said, I am sorry for the offense I caused. I'm like, and you know, of course,
that's
Wall
some
Street
class
Journal.
right there.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean,
a lot of people wouldn't humble themselves enough to do that. Which is
I
good.
wouldn't think so.
Well, that's his humor is satirical, and the definition of satire is humor for a social change. And sure, it's boundaries that are pushing, but like another instance that they took out of context, there's a site called Fiverr where you go on there and you give someone $5 and they offer any kind of service. And to him, his perspective was like, this is ridiculous. I want to show the ridiculous nature of this site and maybe the negatives to be had from that. So he took it at a satire view, and he pays a guy who dresses up as Jesus and makes videos. He paid him to say the Jews were wrong or something along that line. And then he pays these other guys that make signs and creates videos holding up the signs to say death to all Jews. And then a second part of that same thing was subscribe to Keemstar. And Keemstar in the YouTube community is like considered a rat. He's a very boisterous figure that people kind of like. He's kind of like that pin in your side at all times. So that's just the fact that he acknowledges, he puts the subscribe to Keemstar, it just shows his understanding of what that death to all Jews statement really says. Because he's not saying death to all Jews, subscribe to PewDiePie. He's making a satirical statement with that specific thing. And people just took that all out of context.
That's why I think a lot of satirical films, that's part of the reason why, you know the word like cult film?
Yeah. I watch a ton
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah, and a lot of satires are cult films because the majority of people, they just don't really get it.
Well, cult films are really intellectual films, and I think there's a reason that those don't get backlash because that feeds into an intellectual crowd. So people see what is what. It's not black or white to them. It's just there's morally gray everywhere. Like it's like watching Django Unchained and then going on the internet and saying Quentin Tarantino is a murderous racist. Like, no, he just made a funny movie.
Well, that might be a bit of a stretch, but I see what you're saying.
I mean, he wrote and directed the script, and it has like a record amount of N-words.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, you gotta exaggerate things a lot of sometimes to get your point across.
Yeah, like the Wall
For sure.
Street Journal.
He gets his point across like to a pretty high degree compared to the majority of other directors, but he's had success. And I wouldn't say Django Unchained is a cult film. That's a pretty popular film overall.
It's a popularized cult film. Like, it's within the Quentin Tarantino filmography, which, even alone, his next movie will be a cult film just by the fact that it is a Tarantino movie.
Cult films technically is like a cult group of people that especially like this film.
That's the Tarantino fan base. He's grown out.
The general
like
public still kind of liked that film, to my understanding, anyway.
Well, there were articles that came out and kind of said that whole racist thing, but people kind of like, no, okay. But no, definitely Tarantino films are like, they're very niche, and like their audience members get it, and it feeds to a lot of people. Like, it's a popular, probably the most popularized community of cult films, like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs. That kind of started the whole thing.
Did you see what was the newest film he came out with?
The Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that one though.
I didn't mind it. I don't know, I kind of liked that it was basically just in one place the entire time.
Well, it's like Reservoir Dogs.
That forced it the dialogue was the main driver of that film. Which was I enjoyed it. It was it had the exact same type of gore and everything as all of his other movies, but I enjoyed it. For some reason, I showed it to my mom and dad, and forgot how rough it was. They're not the biggest fans of those things, but my mom took it okay.
She took it okay.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to PewDiePie, like, you're Jewish. How do you take stuff like this that blows up, and it's almost like the media is trying to be a protection agent, but in an ironic sense is the only real subtly racist piece of this whole thing? How do you take it? Like, if you first see these headlines, do you look into it, or do you kind of like anticipate or have
I didn't. You guys were the ones who told me about it first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you kind of told me the context originally, so I didn't have the opportunity to see it ahead of time from the media.
Okay.
But I don't know. It reinforces how unobjective the media is, which we talked about last week, and then people go and follow it. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people do. But I used to get pretty offended from a lot of Jew jokes back in the day.
Right.
But then I realized a lot of it's just kind of, or anti-Semitic remarks, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just not really, it's not worth getting angered about. It's just, like, I don't know, it's not as big of a deal as a lot of people make it out to be. Basically what I'm saying. I guess it's who you talk to. Like, I'm not as conservative, orthodox, I guess you could say, with my religious views as others. I'm sure Orthodox Jews, ultra-Orthodox Jews would take pretty big offense to a lot of things.
Right.
But where I'm at anyway, I don't really take that much offense to it. I remember in Seinfeld, there was a guy who converted to Judaism just so he could use the jokes.
Just so he could use the jokes.
So he wasn't technically being anti-Semitic because he was already a Jew.
I empathize with that. I've kind of always wanted, like, sometimes, like, if I meet new and like someone you bump into at university, and it's like this is gonna be the first and last time I ever see you. I've, like, countless times I've just been like, oh, hi, I'm Tanner, I'm Jewish. Like, I've just told people I'm Jewish so many times.
Yeah.
And
You have?
Well, and they're not gonna question it because
Exactly.
you look pretty Jewish. I'd say.
Well,
We've been over this.
should we
And don't use that joke again.
No, should we tell the speed dating story?
Well, we can, sure.
I'm not familiar with this story anyways.
It's just a quick little thing, then we can come back to PewDiePie. But anyways, me and Sam get roped into doing this little speed dating thing at the school, and we thought like, oh, this would be funny, maybe get some good stories from this. But so me and him sit down, and the first girl that sits in front of me, like just like general chit chat. Then she kind of leads in. She's like, "Are you Jewish?" I'm like, I can be if you want me to, but like Sam here is if you want to talk to him. But yeah, that was pretty funny. Like how, yeah, it was very blunt. She's just like, "Are you Jewish?"
Well, like we should give context to that.
Oh,
Because
when we got
there was
roped
the
in.
table, the speed dating table that where they kind of told us about it originally.
Right.
Tanner just remarks, he's like, "We're looking for a Jewish Oilers fan." He just says this randomly,
This is at
and
the
then they're
sign
like,
up.
"Okay, here we go," because I guess they knew an Oilers fan, but she wasn't Jewish.
I kept driving it
And
home that
she
it was a
couldn't
deal
come to
breaker.
this speed dating thing, so another girl kind of came in her place, I guess, and she was trying to scout out this Jew, and she guessed wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
But see, it kind of backs up her story about him looking Jewish. She's not going to ask an Asian guy if he's Jewish, obviously.
Yeah. Well, you never know. Do you know any Asian Jews?
I was just thinking that.
Is that even possible? Because it's also like it's also a race, right? It's also in your genes.
Well, I'm sure there's like a half Asian Jew. I'm sure that exists.
Oh, okay.
That's where you're born and all that.
I mean,
Mom
if we're
and Dad.
getting down to it, the Jews originally weren't even white people in the first place, right? They were Middle East, whatever that
Middle
ethnicity
Eastern of
is.
sorts, but leave it to white people to fuck that up again.
And then they spread out,
Mhm.
obviously, and then
Yeah.
Holocaust happened, and they're still spread out, but they still culminated to Israel.
Right.
Yeah. Speed dating aside, PewDiePie, have we really covered everything there's to say about? I mean, I actually wanted to talk to you guys a bit more about yeah, well, we kind of already did talk about the comedic aspect, because I mean, there is a lot to say about, you know, what is going too far. Can you go too far? And then you kind of get into censorship and stuff too, and then hate speech. There's a lot of things to talk about in here. I mean,
I agree.
you know, if nothing else, I want to ask you guys, what do you think hate speech is? Because that's a question. I don't think I was even around the first time hate speech like came out into the public image and stuff and started being used.
I
Well, I'd say that it's in the simplest of terms, it's basically just saying something derogatory towards a group of people or one person in general. That's technically what hate speech is, but I'd say in our culture now,
that gets blurry.
Hate speech is kind of correlated with racial groups.
I would say hate speech is an intolerance to dissenting opinions, and people are welcome to their opinions, and they could be morally wrong or just uninformed. But it's the intolerance of that. There's always going to be someone who's saying something they know nothing about, and oh god, that's not what I was getting into. But there's always
there we go.
There's always going to be that thing, and if like even if we were all on the same page about this fight for or against free speech, there's always going to be the next thing to complain about. And regardless, like I've met some of the dumbest people in university, like, and I've worked in the trades, so I don't think it's necessarily education, but it's just an intolerance of being opposed to confrontation and stuff. People like all these like there's this safe space stuff, there's bubble wrapping everything. People think anxiety is like such a big thing, but it's like a personal thing to be dealt with, not a societal thing to be dealt with. And it's like people are walking on eggshells and stuff. Like, no. There's always going to be someone that disagrees with you, so suck it up, grow with some thicker skin.
Yeah, and people think that they're this special snowflake, that the issues they're having are just with them. They don't realize everyone goes through this.
Yeah.
Goes through like having anxiety, having issues with confidence or whatever, what have you.
Exactly.
That's just part of growing up. You got to figure that stuff out as you go along.
And that's the bad thing, though, because as soon as we start ignoring these things that help people develop in their psychological sense and just in a societal sense, that's when society just disappears, because we're just like, there used to be a joke that being an adult man doing like, oh, maybe I might have a hobby here, but now it's like legitimately adult children that just don't know how to like work in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
So,
you guys see that video, the Millennial question, whatever it is? I think his
Probably
name's
so.
Simon Sinek or
What is he saying?
Sinek or something. Well, he kind of says how everyone like gives millennials a bad rap, but it's not really their fault. It's the way that they were raised, being told that they're special and that they can do anything. And then I guess all that participation medal crap and all that. And then when they grow up and get into the real world, they realize that they're really not that special. And then they kind of go through a crisis like, what? I was always told I was special, and now look at me. I'm not. And they don't want to accept that.
Yeah.
So then they get into their own kind of self-absorbed narcissistic bubble to try to preserve their ego that they've built up all over these years, when in reality it's not really their fault.
Exactly.
But he also was saying how with the internet now, we kind of have an answer for everything. We can find everything we want online. But when it comes to relationships and when it comes to confidence growing up, there's no easy way out of that. There's no shortcut. And
Yeah.
people want there to be a shortcut, but it doesn't exist. And then they go on to think that there's an issue with them because they can't
Adapt.
find an answer to this as quickly as they're finding all this other stuff. And that's one of the issues that, well, we're millennials. That's one of the issues that our age group is dealing with right now.
We're on the tail end of millennials, yeah.
Oh, I would agree. Like like I see it every day. Like we all three of us go to University of Lethbridge, all three of us in different majors, and like we've all come to various similar conclusions about just visual, like tangible, like examples that happen right before our eyes. Like
Yeah.
people can't adapt anymore, and that's like you need trials and tribulations to like grow your experiences to
Mental fortitude.
Yeah, you need to be adapting, because if you fail, you can't just accept that failure. You need to try again and again and again. But as soon as people fail now, it's like such a personal vendetta that was held against them by society.
Yeah.
There's a good analogy. One time I heard of a study, and it was talking about, it was kind of funny actually, how kids nowadays are having weaker immune systems, and thus leading to more allergies and stuff, and just being weaker in general for a lot of things. And they're like, well, why is this? And as it turns out, kids these days aren't eating enough dirt, so their immune systems actually aren't getting enough work.
That's genius.
It's not getting like all
truth
this.
there for you. That's what he
It's
said.
hilarious, but I mean, like, it's true, right? They're not like getting enough junk in their lives that it's causing them to work.
I was talking. This is kind of on topic, but kind of not. I was talking to Tanner the other day about cold showers.
Oh yeah.
I did this cold shower challenge for 30 days because there's like a bunch of different benefits of it. You guys can look it up.
Nah.
And so basically, what it was is you go in the shower and spend 5 minutes in there in as cold of a setting as it can go.
Right.
Do that for 30 days. Obviously, the first week was hell, but well, I guess it was Antarctica technically. And I ended up doing it for 60 days, 2 months, because I enjoyed it so much. And when I was kind of researching this cold shower thing, they talked about back in the native days, before obviously they were invaded.
Right.
They didn't have access to hot water, so everything they did was cold, freezing water, and their bodies had to adapt to that. And they would be eating raw. They would eat raw meat, and their immune system could handle it. exposing themselves to all these, I guess, genetically modified foods and all this crap. Everything they ate was just natural, and I guess that's kind of the whole motivation behind the paleo diet and all that.
You're lagging a bit there, Sam.
But yeah, nowadays, okay, nowadays there's all these germaphobe people out there. I can be one too. Like when I go through the McDonald's drive-through, I touch that ATM or the pin pad. I got hand sanitizer right in my car. I whipped that out.
Really?
Rub it on my hand. Yeah.
Huh.
So, but obviously there's worse people than me that like Howie Mandel.
I think I'm a schizophrenic germaphobe because I'm either at one extreme or the other. Where like I've done trades, and then I'll come home and like not even wash my hands and just like dirt everywhere, and I'll just eat something. And then there's some occasions where it's just a little humid day. It's like a little too sweaty, and I'm like, ooh, my hands feel gross. So I'm gonna wash these.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a
So-
good point.
So bringing it back to hate speech, the conclusion you guys came to was essentially that it's not actually useful to our society, right? It's kind of more so it's just another safe space thing. It's not really preventing any discrimination. If anything, it's getting in the way. Would you agree with that?
I
Well, I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can paint it black and white like that.
No?
But like, would you say hate speech is the opposite of free speech? I wouldn't. I'm not sure about
Yeah.
that, but
Not the opposite, but
one and the same. Hate speech is misbranded. I don't think hate speech is really a thing. Hate speech
could
is just
see.
hate speech is a community of people that they're just mad at something, and they're annoyed, or like they're angry, or they're offended. It's a group of offended people. That's hate
Yeah.
speech. That's a you
was
thing,
watching-
not a society thing.
yeah. Well, I was watching a Jordan Peterson video.
I was watching them today too.
Yeah, man, that guy's a beauty.
I saw that.
He's like the ultimate moderate, I'd say.
The
We-
ultimate lottery.
We got to get him on here.
Well, man, that's the dream. But there was a student in one of his classes. I think it was in his class. Anyway, that's beside the point. Basically saying how there's like a lack of respect, I guess, in our society.
I watched this video today. Yeah.
You watched that same one?
Yeah.
Okay. And he was saying that society is better off in where everyone respects each other. And Jordan Peterson was saying that actually no. A lot of where we've come in society has been due to a lack of respect. Like wars, there's not a lot of respect going on. But society evolves through that. They kind of evolve through conflict. And a lot of people are afraid of conflict nowadays. And he says that everyone just wants to get respect without actually earning it nowadays.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. They're
Okay,
like,
that's probably a pretty good way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah, respect is something you earn. It's not something that's just given to you, is what he says. And I like that point.
It ties into that whole thing of everyone just wanting like equality and like this socialism bullshit, where they think happiness and money and your personal space fucking grows on trees. You gotta earn for everything here, around you, and into what you do. If you want to be respected, be something to be respected. If you want to be successful, work hard and like be everybody's little bitch. As soon as you have an opportunity, be the biggest bitch and ask the most questions. You're going to have to climb your way up the ladder. Don't expect someone else to make it for you and push you up on top with a crane.
Entitlement.
Yeah, climb up that ladder. No one's dropping you on top.
Yeah, entitlements is the word. Just everything we're talking about right now is entitlement. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So then hate speech is one thing. Not necessarily black and white, but it's not necessarily like as good of a force as like we need to do a whole bunch about it. But I mean, what do you guys think in terms of like the whole incident here and the topic of censorship? If you can kind of combine those two, what do you guys think of censorship in general, especially from a comedic, satiristic point of view.
Satirical.
Satirical.
Satirical. There,
I don't think
You-
anything should be censored.
nothing should be censored.
Nothing.
Not
Well,
as
that's
in like just
in
from.
terms of comedy or things in general.
Well, actually, I'll pose the question. That is two questions, from comedic to, other things in general, from like internet pornography sort of thing as the extreme to
Yeah.
satirical. What do you guys
Well,
think of that?
I was actually there was a guy named Mike McGarg, and he has his podcast called Ask Science Mike, and he's a really smart guy. He was a believer turned atheist back to believer, and he basically said that that when you restrict something, it increases the level of like coolness, I guess, of it, if for lack of a better term. So people don't really have access to that, so they strive for it more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like if you look at the whole. Actually, I hardly know thing about it, but I heard a long time ago there was a ban on alcohol in the U.S. I think it was, and like alcohol, it's not necessarily a great thing for you. There's not a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
bunch of benefits, but yeah, so they banned it outright, and then it went into the underground,
Yeah.
and it was like a huge underground industry, and like crime was thriving because of it, and so eventually they
Yeah.
just like forget the ban.
All those
And then things went back to
moonshiners.
normal.
Yeah.
Moonshiners.
Yeah.
But literally, right? So, but I mean, so that's one thing. I mean, like I get what you're saying about
Part of the justification for legalizing marijuana.
You're lagging
Yeah.
out there, Sam.
but marijuana you're talking about there.
Did you get that?
A little bit. Just repeat yourself about the marijuana thing quickly.
Oh, you're frozen now.
No.
Sam. Oh, you're back. You're back.
You were saying about something about marijuana. Is he there?
Okay, am I good?
Can you hear me?
Good.
Yeah.
Marco.
Polo.
There you go. Okay. So give us you went on to make a side statement about the marijuana thing, and you were leading into
Well,
something.
that's one of the rationales behind legalizing marijuana is if you legalize it, then it'll take away some of the lore, I guess, of it. And it might not be as something that's as abused, I guess.
I don't
say. That's just like human psychology.
Anything could be abused.
Yeah. But I mean, well, we could get into that, but I think people already know everything, like food can be abused. I don't know, you could get addicted to drinking milk or whatever. Anything could be abused. But I mean,
Milk?
sorry?
Did you just say milk?
Milk. Yeah, milk. You have no idea how many 4 liters I go through. Gallons,
No,
I'll say.
you're pronouncing it milk.
I say it like that.
Milk.
You say milk?
I say, like, if I don't think about it, people always call me out. I'll be like, hey, do you guys want to go for a milkshake? I'll be, what did you say?
Oh.
What did you say?
You know what's worse?
Milk.
Everyone has those words you can't say. Like front wheel drive?
Mhm.
This is the one word I can't say, like rear wheel drive.
Rear wheel?
Like
rear wheel drive.
If I go slow, I can go rear, like I gotta like rear wheel drive. But like, cause that's my car, and if people are like, "What's your car?" I'm like, "We will drive." so I've started telling people. Yeah, so I've started telling people like I've rebranded these two terms into front pull and back push, and my car is back push because I can't say wheel drive.
Okay.
Is that like a maritime thing or what?
No, it's a Tanner thing.
Rear wheel drive. It's harder to say rear wheel drive than rear wheel drive.
Okay,
Now
is great.
Now it's hard for me to say it.
Exactly.
This is like
shit.
Anyways, I wanted to get into.
Sam, you're frozen.
Yeah, you're kind of like, it's kind of weird. It's
shit.
Sam, testing 1 2. I guess testing audio won't actually make his video better, but.
Anyway, you were saying.
So yeah, while Sam tries to fix himself, I wanted to get into because we know the
I'll be back,
arguments.
okay?
Okay. Oh, okay. I guess we should.
No, keep going.
Okay,
We're
I'll just
good.
keep going then.
Yeah, we'll bounce back and forth here.
Okay. So about legalizing things, what do you think about making things illegal then? Like period. I mean, do you think we should, going again to the extreme side, we should make it legal for murder to happen by the same line of reasoning?
No, absolutely not.
Then where is the line? That's
Yeah, there's so much moral gray area, because if you're an advocate for being like, well, marijuana is about to be legal at some point, but then it's going to be the next thing. It's like, why don't we just make all the drugs legal? And I could see where someone could make the argument for that, but I think maybe like I wouldn't want to like put myself on this side and I'm fighting for this side or the other side. But I think where I would agree to make certain things legal, vice versa, is if it's within your choice to do and it only harms yourself, sure. Like if cocaine were like legal, as long as it's only you, you're not forcing someone else to do it. Whereas murder, if that were legal, that's something you can inflict onto someone else. As long as you're only hurting yourself, I'm fine with your freedom and your free will to choose that negativity and stuff. But it's the things that you can inflict onto other people. But then again, you could argue that as this individual is making these horrible personal decisions, it's affecting their inner circle. But then that comes back to the entitlement of why am I deserving of them to conduct their lives in a way in which I feel happy about. So it's like a bunch of like ins and outs, and it's complicated.
there's a lot to say about that. Yeah, I don't know. I asked you a real general question, and it is very gray for sure. Yeah, about the marijuana specifically. If we're gonna continue with that, to not continue rabbit trailing too much, but um, as far as the science is concerned, according to the news at least,
Right.
not that I trust them too much, but there aren't really any significant negative effects as far as I can tell from what's been said, other than outright having an addiction, and then of course you can waste away your money.
Yeah.
But there's not like any mental degradation or anything. You're not getting anything messed up in there, which is interesting. And there are plenty of medical benefits, of course, too. So if it is controlled and it is given out properly, I think that could be a very good thing. And of course, there's always the benefit of it cutting down on crime, just because that's not a part of their industry as much, hopefully.
Yeah, you're taking a huge portion of the law enforcement and actually like using all this resources into figuring out stuff that's more important. Like drug dealers aside and whatever, I'm sure there's things to be had, but there's bigger things that need to be fixed over here. Just stop with this little thing and go do some real work. But then you come back to the censoring argument, like if we're looking at just like outside of that kind of societal look at it, art and stuff should never be censored. Nothing.
Shouldn't.
Nothing. If you want to have like a guy and a horse in a video here and like the Teletubbies here, fine, just do it. Everyone knows their audience. I'm not expecting an orgy in the Powerpuff Girls. Make your art for the audience, and there shouldn't be a figure that deems a piece of entertainment or a piece of internet thing as, oh, this, and all of a sudden this is too much for any sort of community or group of people to take in.
Okay. So then you would say it's fine to have, again, going to the extreme example, porn not censored? You would agree with that? So it's just not like put on.
What, like Japan?
Or what? I don't. What do you mean?
Well, like there's that whole joke that's like the Japanese genitals are always blurry.
Oh,
They're always
okay.
pixelated. But no, like that's just a part of the internet. I don't think like there should be a power that removes that from the internet, or a power that goes through that part of the internet.
Okay, I'm back.
Hello, welcome back, Goldberg.
I got to use my phone because my laptop's fucked up.
Okay.
Awesome.
So is it okay?
The audio sounds a bit different, but you're using the same headphone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I think it'll settle back in. But we're just talking about censorship right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, as you were saying, Tanner?
Yeah, no, there should be like even like those extremes. Like if we're looking at like a toy review channel on YouTube versus like bestiality on the internet. If people want to watch either, they know where to go. But it should be there for them if they want it to.
Hmm.
But then again, you think of child porn, and that definitely shouldn't be there. So actually,
Okay.
now I'm already going back against these arguments. So yeah, maybe there is roofs or ceilings you shouldn't cross.
So I'll pose that question to Sam then. Do you think there's any role for censorship in, let's go with like online material. I gave the example of pornography. Do you think there should be any censorship at all, period?
I'd say it's people's prerogative.
People's
But-
prerogative?
Yeah, if they want to see it or not. But I would say that child pornography should be definitely illegal, which it already is.
Yeah, that's the one thing that comes to mind that I think, would that be considered censoring?
Making it illegal? Yes. Yeah. That would be censorship of sorts. Making things
Like
illegal.
obviously it's illegal, and rightly so, that you can't post porn on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. But I'd say if you want to see it, then that's your choice, kind of thing.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Like, you can't stop people from doing everything. They have free will to do what they see fit,
Right.
and
But we
Yeah,
should stop
that's
people
what I would say.
sometimes, would you say?
you should stop people sometimes, because psychologically people are irrational a lot of times. But it's impossible to control everything, and you gotta pick your battles, I would say. And pornography would be one that I'd say just kind of leave it up to people. People, I would say, nowadays know the negative effects of continual use of pornography, just like smoking. Smoking isn't illegal. It is in certain settings, but the majority of the population knows the negative repercussions of it, and then you can just leave it up to them to decide.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because, going back to marijuana, we were talking about how there's
Is
hardly.
my audio okay, by the way?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
good.
it's pretty good. It could be better, but I mean, whatever.
We're not professionals.
Yeah, so like we were talking about marijuana, and there's like, as far as the science is concerned, studies, there's like no negative effects of this stuff, really. There's hardly anything.
Actually, apparently, I was listening to something the other day, and there is some
Like what?
negative effects. Well, apparently it lowers your testosterone.
Which?
Oh, does it?
Time, marijuana.
Really?
Okay.
Smoking anything is going to do some damage to your lungs.
Yeah.
Regardless
Okay, that's
of
true.
whether it's marijuana or not.
Which you could get around by consuming it through other forms, but go on.
Yeah. And apparently it's going to lower your fertility rate as well. And there was one other, and that kind of correlates with testosterone. And then there was one other negative effect of it. Oh, I think it increases your chance of heart attack. Is another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I'm not sure the percentages of these things, but that's what I heard. Again, from that Science Mike guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, that's interesting to note. Noted now. Marijuana is not a perfectly healthy thing anymore.
Well, we talked when you dropped, we went into like a broader version of censorship and like what would be illegal versus legal in like an ideal society. And I kind of brought up a point which there's 7 ways from last Tuesday to argue this point, but that everything that, like, if you could do anything as long as it's only a detriment to yourself. Whereas if murder were legal, it would be something you can inflict on other people. But for all these drugs or what have you to be legal, it's something you do to yourself. It's like, as long as it's a personal thing, that's you're only affecting yourself, that there's an argument to have that to be legal. But then there's the other side of that, you become a detriment to everyone around you and you're affecting people through your social connections. But then you argue again, coming back to the entitled thing, and we're just repeating ourselves really here. But like, why would someone feel entitled to want to control how a degenerate wants to live his life?
Well, and then we get into. Sorry, go ahead.
So are you just saying like all drugs you could use that argument?
Yeah, you could, like, as long as it's a thing.
Look at the bath salts thing.
What about it?
Guy takes that, he goes on a killing spree basically.
Yeah, and he's inflicting that on other people.
Exactly, which is a reason to make it illegal.
Yeah, no, there's.
I don't have the context. Explain to me what you're talking about here.
The bath salts
thing.
This happened in like 2012, right?
Something like that. Yeah, you don't hear a whole lot about it now.
I think it's just a myth or so. I don't think bath salts in itself is like a drug. I think it's like just a hodgepodge, like a motley crew of shit people take back. They did something in Florida. Of course, it's in Florida though. It's always in fucking Florida. But this guy takes this chemical, I'll call it. I don't know. You never hear about this thing or anything. It just kind of blew up like a meme back in the day. So he takes this thing. He's under the influence of something. And this guy is like, he's in it hardcore. So he starts, was he naked? He might have been naked, but he goes out on the highway. And he sees this homeless guy. And he goes after this homeless guy. And he like bites his whole face off.
Yeah. I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah, so the meme is like, yeah.
Huh. Okay. Sketchy.
So that's where the line needs to be drawn, obviously.
Yeah. But I think the argument there is that just happened to be, that's just a Florida thing. Pretty sure if that guy was in like Cincinnati and he had bath salts, he would be okay. He was influenced by his environment.
Florida, the air in Florida brings it out in people.
Yeah, it makes your brain cells leak out of every orifice.
Shit.
Okay. We'll go with that then.
What about all the seniors that live there?
They live there because they're trying to die quicker. Don't they call that like heaven's waiting room?
Well, maybe just because of the high concentration of seniors could be the case. But I don't really know.
I think we're getting into pseudoscience here.
Everything we say is pseudoscience, man.
This is more pseudoscience.
This is science in moderation.
Science, where we, okay, all
Good.
right.
Good.
What brought us into talking about trying the line?
Santa was talking about if something just affects you personally, and technically no harm is done to other people, then that's where it should be made okay, I guess legal.
Right. So
that's my understanding of what you were saying.
I've heard continuing off of that, I've heard a few interesting, there's plenty of stuff we could say to each side of the argument, but I just want to, actually, no, I won't throw that out there. I don't think, no, that'll be just a spiel. Never mind. Cancel that.
Come on.
That's like 10
it's
minutes.
It's already begun, man.
Okay.
You can't just shut it down like that.
Okay. So I heard at one point, and I agree with this in a lot of ways, that it's in the government's interest to promote the nuclear family unit. So, in other words, father, mother, and they're married together, and they have kids. Yeah, children, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said that. There's a lot of science, especially now, coming out, especially about fatherlessness, about the negative effects of not having a father in the household, right?
Right.
And so when we're getting into stuff like that, you could say, getting into the whole marriage and divorce debate sort of thing, should we, because there's been bills passed in the past about no fault divorce, right? And if you want to if this divorce isn't working or this marriage isn't working, you can just divorce easy.
Right.
It's a fair thing, but it's, as it turns out, it's leading to more divorces happening, right? Which in turn is having serious negative effects on children. And that's affecting the next generation, and then it's a great cycle,
With
causing
the
all sorts of terrible things.
Yeah, with the nuclear family too. There's like you said, there's the building blocks that is the definition of the nuclear family. But those building blocks each had specific roles too. It was always kind of like the breadwinner, the father figure, the maternal housekeeper of the wife, and that was supposed to be the support system into raising society and their children, like all inclusive in one motion. And there are studies out there that said how much that model, that nuclear family model, benefited that kind of mid 1900s kind of, like, it helped society so much. And sure, there's arguments to be made for the whole feminism thing and stuff. There's criticisms or what have you, but it's undeniable the benefits society gained from that and how well society performed under a rudimentary system almost.
Yeah, and then people point to a couple situations of things that have gone wrong, and then use that as their justification for a new method. When in reality, those few things that go wrong, they're going to happen regardless. That's just the nature of life. You can't avoid badness, for lack of a better term, all the time.
Yeah, you can't avoid exceptions.
Hold on, I'm just going to try to get back on my laptop here. So
No, keep yourself there. It's working.
Go ahead without me.
No, it's working.
Is it choppy, the video?
No.
It's pretty good, actually.
This is the clearest you've ever been.
Okay, all right.
But
ever.
Yeah, but this this reminds me of my own. Like, we're all guilty of biases too, right? This kind of unrelated, but everyone has biases. And I was like reaffirmed of this yesterday because I went to see the Billy Talent concert, right? And we get there, and I'm with my friend and his girlfriend, and they're casual fans of Billy Talent. In my youth, I was a more Billy Talent fan. They were one of the first bands I listened to, but I'm like, why not? Let's go see them in Calgary. So we get there, and the crowd is predominantly white. Like, I'm talking like, and like all three of us were guilty of this, being like, oh, God, this place looks like I joked, I'm like, I turned around to them like, this place looks like a Donald Trump rally. Or I was just making jokes like, these people look trashy. Like, there's very like trailer trash almost. And like, that's it was like, looking back, it's such just an in-moment thing, kind of like get laughs between us. But like, they seem really good people, because then sometime through the show, they make a anti-Trump thing, and it's like super left, but like we said before, everyone has their faults, and Trump has his goods and his bads, just like Clinton would have. But I was expecting everyone to like be like, yeah, white power almost. But then I realized, as like he goes on to be like, we accept atheists, Jews, Christians, Muslims, all this kind of thing. I realized that this crowd of white people are the most liberal people I've ever seen. And I started looking around, and like the body shapes and stuff, and the expression in their facial hair or their hair color and stuff. People keep looking at the community of maybe the middle class white people as like these racists and stuff. And maybe, I don't know, I don't think so. I've never personally experienced that, but just my biases from hearing all that and then experiencing it is almost kind of like a cognitive dissonance, where I had to like reevaluate, almost control alt delete, and realize, oh God, maybe I'm the racist in this crowd with my subtle biases that I didn't verbalize to them. And it was interesting. Like, there's people in wheelchairs there. Like, there was a guy, like, I joked about it. We were standing at the side. Oh, I have pictures. This is early before Billy Talent hits the stage. And this guy rolls past me. I'm like, what the fuck? What's a guy in a wheelchair doing at a concert like this? Because there's no seats. It's like all standing in like the Grey Eagle Resort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I look over to my friends. And I'm like, what are the odds he crowd surfs? And so the show goes on. And all of a sudden, like on my left peripheral, I look, and he's like starting at the back. And I'm like, holy shit. It's the fucking wheelchair guy. And he's slowly going. And I'm like, buddy, look at this.
In the wheelchair?
Yeah, in the wheelchair. And I'm taking pictures of this. Let's see. I'll get these ready as I tell the story. And it takes him a solid, like a whole song to slowly work. Because like, think about it. Like you're grabbing the wheels and stuff. Why isn't he rolling back or rolling forward? Like, these people are like there was everyone just collectively is like, we're getting this guy to the front, because they were like slowly moving him. And like, here, let's get some pictures going of this guy.
That's pretty heavy there. Oh,
That's actually a pretty good shot there.
And then
That's funny.
this is zoomed out kind of more, so you see him there in the middle.
Mhm.
This guy, he's like, this is halfway. He's getting there, right? So all of a sudden, I'm watching him more than the show at this point make his sluggish crawl over the hordes of very accepting people, I learned. And he gets to the front, and of course, you have the security in the yellow shirts, kind of like, I saw them throughout the show. They'd kind of grab the people and put them back in a crowd. So I assumed they had taken him down. And all of a sudden, the singer or something clearly saw a guy in a fucking wheelchair flowing over the hordes of people. He's like, hey, this is going to be great publicity. Let's get this guy on stage. And next thing you know, this guy's on stage with the band. And he's like singing with them.
That's just...
Yeah.
that's sick right there.
They gave him like 2 beers.
Beautiful.
He played on the stage, and they did like a super solo for him. Like, here's a really good shot of him with the singer there.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah, that blew my mind though.
Man, that's
funny.
beautiful. I gained some respect for old Billy.
Yeah, and that was probably the best concert I've ever seen of them. That's the tightest I've ever seen live. But that included with just the biases I had going into the show at the beginning versus when I left. I really realized that like there's a lot more like the moderate people out there that just kind of like they just want to do their own thing really. They don't need the left yelling at them or the right yelling at them. They'd kind of just have settled into this a new kind of thing almost, or maybe there's a name for it. I just don't know. But yeah, that wheelchair guy made my night.
And you're not exposed to that. You're not exposed to that because the extremes is what makes
exactly.
media.
Yeah, exactly.
So people aren't really aware that there's actually normal people out there.
Oh yeah. And it's strange because these people are extremely normal. Like they're all great people. It was just this like this bias brainwashing almost from the media because I'm like always on the internet that have really like kind of turned the normalcy of people into like almost like they're the what did Clinton call them, the degenerates or the deplorables. The deplorables.
Yeah. Did she call them that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basket
but
of deplorables.
At the same time, I guess I'm being devil's advocate. You don't know what people are thinking.
No, at all.
They could be a bunch of non-moderate people.
No, but that's the thing.
And following what 1 or 2 people in the crowd decided. That could be the case. You don't know that for sure.
Oh yeah, no, and like I had that thought in my head, and like just that kind of thing. Like this looks like the type of people that would support like the KKK or whatever, because like that's what I'm told through the internet. But it's that thing. Like he went on like a 40-second, like he stopped kind of concert. He's like, listen, there's some things going on in politics and stuff, and he goes on to explain his views, the singer Ben, his views of accepting everyone except gingers, because my friend's a ginger and he didn't mention gingers. So I'm going to remember that Billy Talent hates gingers. They probably don't, the one exclusion. But I was expecting the crowd kind of be like, shut the fuck up and play again. But like everyone was kind of like, yeah. And they played kind of like a song that lyrically played into the theme of that, and everyone was like there's good energy all around. I was kind of surprised. I didn't look around, and everyone was like for this kind of like pro-moderate acceptance. Like we weren't going off being like, I accept your gender and your gender, and like Oprah, like under your seat, everyone gets their own unique gender. But yeah, it was interesting to just kind of like from a sociological standpoint, kind of just to take everything in with biases and new experiences. And the fucking wheelchair guy. His name was Francis.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you're able to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't really set aside some of their ideals and to take in other points of view.
Yeah, well, I like to think I'm open to experiences. Like I'm guilty of we're all guilty of our own
except for God, you're pretty bluntly against that.
We'll get into religion at some point, and then I'll work on my things because I'm open, but there's to an extent. But we're all guilty of having certain little things. But like last week, I was blown away to learn that both of you guys sit down and fucking pee. Like not just when you're taking a shit. Like you're like, oh, I have to urinate. I'm gonna like pop a squat. So this last week, like you guys didn't even ask me. Like unbeknownst to you guys, like I mentioned it sometime throughout the week. I just took it upon myself to do a 1-week trial on sitting down to pee. and
Good.
and like
And how did it go?
it wasn't bad at all. I kind of thought to myself like I would have been done already if I just kind of like took it out and aimed and left. But like the biggest
That's the
draw.
only issue. I'll concede that. That's the only issue. You spend a lot more time in there than you realistically should when you sit down.
Yeah, but the biggest draw, because like I've always heard through just like grapevine of like people, there's always like kind of like that thing is like, oh, you wake up in the middle of the night, but you don't want to wake up your partner because you gotta pee, right? There's always that thing is like it's super loud to pee in the middle of the night. You've heard this?
Once or twice, yes.
It's kind of like a thing like that. So I've always thought in the back of my mind like, oh yeah, if I'm married, I'm gonna have to deal with that at some point, or if I'm like living with someone. So the thing I took away from this, like, it's like I never would have thought about this before until I did this 1 week trial. That when I'm married, if it's like 2 a.m., I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna get out of the bed, not gonna disturb my wife, and I'm gonna go sit down and take a pee. Because the biggest thing I've learned, it's you don't hear a thing. You don't hear a thing. It's just like a little as it calmly runs down the front of the bowl like a Buddhist prayer. It's so peaceful.
I'm not sure the Buddhists would appreciate that metaphor there.
Then why is he always squatting?
Not to continue this conversation, but I mean, like, I especially sit if I ever want to. If I'm ever kind of sick or anything, it's always nice to just kind of, I feel better taking the sit instead of standing up for that.
No, that's fair.
Throwing that out there. I don't know if that matters to anyone.
Well, we actually found because like we kind of just like realized that like there's a small minority of people that sit down to pee, but I googled it as a joke to kind of like haze you guys, and there's 1 in 3 guys according to one article we found on a loosely, vaguely searched Google search.
2 of 3 apparently.
Not okay. 2 of 3 moderates, 1 in 3 normal people.
Was it 2 or 3 normal people? One of
well, the majority sit down to pee. So who's the real normal and non-normal ones here?
No, 1 in 3 men apparently sit down to pee off this vaguely searched thing, off that one thing. But on this show, yeah, you're right. There's a 66% sit rate here.
Yep, and our citation is in the link below.
No, it's not going to be there.
There's apparent health benefits
Google.
to it.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last time. Specifically, the prostate gland doesn't have as much strain put on it when you sit.
Yeah, when you guys told me that, I was like, I think that's what really made me do the trial.
On me, so I'm gonna switch here quickly. I'll be back within shortly.
Okay, goodbye.
See ya.
Stuff. But yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I have something to fill the time here. You ever heard of this Reddit where the subreddit "Am I the Asshole"?
I didn't hear about it until you mentioned it to me.
All right, well, I got a couple open here, so I think we can go through one of these and see who is the asshole. And I found
explain what this is.
Yeah, so "Am I the Asshole" is a subreddit where people will go on and explain a situation, like a bizarre situation that they had ended up in, and their response to the situation. And then the internet and now us are the moral guidance and judges of them. And we are going to determine whether their response made them an asshole or they were just in their response.
Okay.
And I had one here for, so this one is saying...
All right, we're doing the asshole thing?
Yeah, welcome back. So I found one here that
better.
Could be a little interesting, and the title here is "Am I the Asshole for Making Fun of a Kid with Cancer?" Now let's get into this thing. I'll try and summarize it quick. So I'll read it off. Okay, this is him now. Okay, we were going back 10 years when little 9-year-old, I'll call him John, was a fat kid in 3rd grade. At school, I was a sociable kid, but the bus ride home was its own little hell. Every day I was made fun of for my weight to the degree that the ride home was more or less a daily roast session hosted by the older kids. At some point, one of the kids was really going in on him, and this is years and years to his daily roast sessions, that he finally gets up to this kid that has cancer, says, "Shut up, you have cancer," in a fit of rage. Now going back to how he's writing it, now I immediately knew I fucked up when the entire bus dropped to church mice levels of quiet. Years pass. I'm 15 or so at this point, and Ethan dies. Ethan is the kid with cancer that would always make fun of him daily, that he told the one time to shut up. You have cancer. So Ethan dies, now he's 15, and this guy says again, I'm talking to my friends, and one of them starts to get uppity about that one time you made fun of the kid with cancer. I stuck to my guns and said he was acting like an asshole. Present day, I'm nearly 20, and this all came back to me as I was chatting with some old friends. What do you guys think? Am I the asshole? I don't think he's an asshole.
There's a few things to say. First off, I don't think you should necessarily respond making fun of, like, if you're being made fun of, you shouldn't necessarily make fun of someone back to fix the situation. Mind you, I don't really blame the kid for responding back, insulting this guy.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that
To
much.
win
Sorry.
an argument or like a chirp contest, I guess, is
Well,
technically what it was.
They're 8,
That
9
you-
years old.
Yeah.
Like-
You naturally go to the thing that's going to hurt the other person the most.
Usually cancer's
Like-
off limits, though.
That was like, I don't know, you guys know Zinedine Zidane, the guy who headbutted the French
Yeah.
soccer player?
I think I've
Headbutted
probably heard about this, yeah.
Maserati, no, it wasn't Maserati, but Italian guy
Mhm.
making fun of his mom and his sister. And it cut Zidane pretty deep, and he unleashed a headbutt.
Oh, is that
So
what
if,
happened?
if you're if you're
Okay.
provoked enough, and this kid was provoked enough,
On a daily
you're
basis.
gonna lash out in some way.
Yeah.
You're not gonna care about that person's feelings. So in a way, as sad as it is that the guy had cancer and that he died, it comes with the territory. If you're gonna be talking to somebody like that, then you kind of gotta expect to receive a little bit back at some point.
And from
But
the way that he frames this thing, I don't know if he's framing himself in a better light, is that this was just the one occurrence where he kind of lashed back, and these people were roasting him daily. And not like, if we're calling it a chirp session, this guy's an amateur, because all he says, "Shut up, you have cancer." That's like being like, "You're a butthead," in a fit of rage. But yeah, I don't know, like, sure, he died, but it sounds like this guy was being an asshole. But kids that age are always assholes, and I'm not saying Ethan here deserved to die, but I don't think anyone here is an asshole.
If we're assuming this story is true in the context it's given, yeah, I mean, it's not good to respond in the way he did necessarily. There are better ways to do it, but if we're gonna go by like an eye for an eye, he had like 50 times worse done to him according to the story. So
Yeah. Well,
he's kind
The
of
whole-
in the right in a way.
the whole Christian thing is like turn the other cheek.
Mm.
Sounds
Yeah.
like he turned 10 cheeks and then he finally gave in.
yeah, like this sounds like he really like has some thick skin, and finally they kind of pierced it. But here's interesting
snapped.
thing with this subreddit is that, like, eventually these posts are rated either as they were an asshole or not an asshole. Now, before I reveal
Okay.
what this post is, let's find out. So I voted not an asshole. Sam says he's a...
Well, should
What-
we play devil's advocate here and talk about how he might be an asshole? What do
Oh,
you think?
I think we fought both sides,
Kinda
but just yourself, how did you perceive it? What do you think he is? Is he an asshole?
I'll go. Like, I'd say he is still an asshole, but not to enough of an extent to label him as like
Yeah.
the type of asshole people think. So I'll just say no,
So you say he is an asshole or not an asshole?
is not.
He's not. So we got two not assholes and Brock.
I'll also say he's not. Again, kind of with Sam, he didn't do the best thing. But I
Okay.
mean, if we're going equivalent exchange,
Well,
not really.
we failed because the internet deemed this guy like a horrible asshole.
Really?
Yeah, but the
Did
top
they?
no, it's like flagged red for asshole. But the top comment here kind of like agrees with us. I think everyone was kind of on the fence and just gave him the asshole because it was a kid with cancer that died. Everyone was
Yeah.
kind of like, eh. But this comment here is pretty good. The guy comments, top one.
I wouldn't have died. Go ahead.
Yeah, all kids are assholes. Asshole is the default state of every human being. Cancer Kid was an asshole. You were an asshole. I was an asshole. We all begin life as assholes. And every day we work to be less of an asshole than we were yesterday. This story is fucking hilarious, though. Aside from the part where Cancer Kid died, of course.
So if the Cancer Kid wouldn't have died, then it wouldn't have. He probably wouldn't have got that label, I would say.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that comment, though.
That's kind of
and that's actually kind of logically sound in a way.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say he's like wrong or anything, but yeah, everyone is an asshole.
That's pretty great.
Did you guys want to do another one of these?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for this. Moral judgments. How wonderful.
We finally get to go on people like liberals go on society. Yeah. Let's see if I got a good one.
From the confines of the YouTubes.
So I haven't read through this one. I just picked it up from the title. Sounds interesting. So the guy writes, "Am I the asshole for walking around my apartment naked?" So this will be my first time reading this too. So I'll go at it. I'm currently living in my first very own apartment. No roommates, no siblings, no parents. I love it. Sometimes when I just got out of the shower or am on my way there, I walk around naked. I have a building opposite of mine, maybe 50 feet away. People could see me naked if they looked into my window. Also, people on the street could see me. Personally, I don't care.
Wait, sorry, stop quickly. He's in his room?
It sounded
in
like
his apartment.
Down the street.
He's in his apartment. He's got no roommates, no siblings, no parents, but he goes on to say that the building across from him could see him anytime if they wanted to look through his window when he's naked, and that people from the street could also see them from their view through his window in his apartment while he's naked. But he says, personally, I don't care. I've been to saunas, nude beaches, and just regular locker rooms, enough to be comfortable with my own nudity. And if someone catches a glance, so what? But am I the dick to those who might not want to see a hairy guy naked? Is it their own fault if they look into other people's windows, or can I be expected to either close the curtains or put on some clothes?
That's actually an interesting question. If I can just put a short answer.
I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
I would say ideally he should have blinds on his windows, but he does have every right to do whatever he wants in his own household. I think that's absolutely fine. Though I think if he is going to be like that, he should at least go an extra step to get some blinds or curtains or whatever and just shut them. But I would, in general, say no. I don't think he is.
Yeah, I don't think he's an asshole.
I feel like asshole is the wrong term in this case.
What would you say is the right term?
It's like
he's maybe arrogant, but
is this like civilly appropriate? Is this civil? What he's doing is the better term.
I know. Is he courteous? Is he courteous?
Courteous would be a good one. Civil.
Is he courteous? Yes.
But yeah.
So in terms of saying he's an asshole, I'd say no. Is he courteous? I'd say
maybe not.
I'd say no.
So all of us saying he's not an asshole. Again, flagged as asshole. This guy has been deemed an asshole.
Oh, really? That's interesting, actually.
And then the first guy
these people.
Let's see this first comment here. Yeah, okay, so this first guy comments like, "Yeah, dude, that's weird. It'd be completely normal if you close the blinds, but it seems to you as you leave them open intentionally for people to see. God damn, think of the children."
Well, again,
but
so
he's the one who's putting himself out there by having the other people seeing him naked. It's his choice, I guess, and it's embarrassing for him. But if he's okay with it, then
well, it is something people don't want to see. I mean, there is the whole indecency laws and stuff, right? Basically, I would frame my whole answer around, because we don't get the whole story about whether he actually kind of closes the blinds and stuff. If he leaves it open, I would kind of lean more towards, that's no, man. But if he does actually spend the 2 seconds or the $100 to buy some blinds or whatever, then I'd be go ahead.
From what it sounds like he's in an apartment building, but he's on that first floor, right? Like if people on the street can see him in the building across, sounds like the first floor. So maybe you're maybe an asshole for maybe not getting those blinds. But if he's second floor and just kind of people can see him, I don't give a shit. But yeah, no,
You can see both sides of that for sure, I guess.
I still don't think he's an asshole, but
Yeah. It's kind of a gray one. We aren't provided all the information, so.
I just found a golden nugget on this site. The title, you ready for this title?
Yeah.
We're going to react to the title before we react to the post. Am I the asshole
Okay.
for not wanting to talk to my friend since she voted for Trump?
Social isolation.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm already calling her an asshole. Now let's read this. I know it's pretty.
You're going to no longer be friends with somebody based on their political views?
Yeah, what an asshole. But so let's see. Maybe she pulls like a rabbit out of her butt, and she's got great reasons. I doubt it.
Okay.
But
Right,
she
I'm ready.
goes on to say, I know it's petty, but honestly, it pisses me off that someone so close to me would make such a stupid decision. I'm a woman of color, and my grandma, who she loves, was an illegal immigrant from Mexico who came here to make a wonderful life for his children and grandchildren. His grandpa, I read grandma, my bad. My mom and my best friend and her sister is gay. It personally offends me that she voted for Trump, and I just don't want to talk to her. Am I an asshole for it? Yeah, you're an asshole.
Yeah. You got to set that stuff aside, man. You don't know their reasonings for voting for Trump. It's not like they're like, oh, screw Mexicans, I'm voting for Trump.
All right.
Like, there's different platforms of what he's doing, and like, I don't know, it's just immature.
Immature is a good way to summarize it, yeah. What about you, Brock?
The whole, well, like where she says, my grandparents or whatever came to as an illegal immigrant to make a good life for her family. That's actually a selfish view if we look at it like that. Because I mean, why not just come to the U.S. as a legal immigrant? I mean, it might be more of a pain. I doubt it's like a huge pain. I'm actually not versed in the issue, so I don't know. But I mean, that's so you're skipping out on whatever else. So I mean, you could have just come through legally, and it's not like Trump hates all people from other countries, right? And I mean, there's been blanket statements thrown around this whole issue, so I think it's an immature, or dare I say, an ignorant viewpoint.
I think that's fair. So I think we're all in the like asshole.
I'm going to predict
much.
that everyone there says that she is not an asshole just because of how many people
That's interesting.
through social media are against Trump.
Well,
They're like, okay, you're right, Trump's garbage.
are you ready for the results though?
Absolutely.
Well, we finally got one right. She was. They called her an asshole.
Society.
So now I'm
Thank you.
wondering
That's
if
great.
they just call everyone an asshole on this site because they think it's funny. But no.
I'm wondering too.
Well, I looked for all these. There's a lot of them saying that people aren't assholes, but the first comment here is great.
What does it say?
I'll wait for Goldberg to. What's he doing?
Oh, Goldberg.
Is he cold?
Oh,
We're almost done.
Around there. Yeah. What's going on?
Wardrobe change.
Uh-huh.
All right. So
Very
yeah,
important.
the first comment here is great. It quotes how she starts her thing. It's like, I know it's petty. Sounds like you already know the answer and you're just looking to harness the Trump hate to make you feel better. Yes, you're an asshole.
That's put beautifully. Harness the Trump hate.
Yeah.
Oh man. I like
That's
that
kind of. Okay. Want to do another one or two, and then we'll.
Yeah, sure.
up,
Let's see if I got one here. This one's a bit long. Well, actually, Sam had found one the other day. I can't find it, but do you want to explain that one you found the other day while I look for the last one here? It's about the bullying.
I'll give you. I don't have the description of it, but I'll give you the summary of it.
Yeah.
So basically, it was a kid who was bullied pretty, I guess, erroneously, if that's the right term, throughout his school days. And the bullying kind of did some damage to his psyche. And years later, this guy who bullied him, Facebook messaged him, probably like 10, 15 years later, and said how sorry he was for bullying him. And the victim of the bullying didn't accept the apology and basically told the guy to not contact me again. And his rationale for that is that it did like a huge amount of damage in his life psychologically, this bullying, and it took him so long to kind of get over it, and he still hasn't gotten over a lot of the bullying. So a little sorry isn't going to magically change how he feels.
Course. Right.
So then the question was brought up.
That's it. It's actually kind of a simple question, in other words. Like, you could rephrase it as, if someone is hurt and the other person acknowledges that they hurt the person and apologizes, is the person who was hurt obligated to accept the apology? Essentially, is kind of what the question is. And this can apply to a lot of situations. If I would give my take on it, is kind of actually not as nice one, but I think people aren't obligated to apologize. I think if you
mean to forgive?
I don't think you need to forgive. I think if you don't forgive, that's an eye for an eye right there. That's what that is, essentially. And I think you are allowed to do so. But I think, of course, I do think forgiveness is the way to go. It does heal for both parties. It's better that way. And there's a lot of reasons as to why it is better. But I don't think you're necessarily obligated to not, or to accept or forgive.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call him an asshole, but in the act of responding the way he did, he brings himself down to the level of what made him into what he was. So instead of being the better man, which is a possibility, he kind of succumbs to like responses that are ingrained in human DNA almost. It's kind of like, fuck you, fuck me.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of bring up this point. I don't know the validity of it, but is it, okay, he was bullied, but at the same time, he said he still hasn't gotten over some of that bullying. Is that kind of, do you have to kind of take some responsibility in getting over that bullying?
I think you do.
You think? Like, you gotta, at some point, just accept that that's what happened and let it go, I think.
No, I agree.
Obviously, it's horrible what happened to him, but at some point, you gotta just man up and be like, well, that's life. I got dealt a bad hand in that situation, and I gotta find a way out of it. I guess if that wasn't what he did, or that wasn't what he did, and he held on to this. So I guess in that case, it's understandable of him not forgiving him. But in an ideal situation, he would have gotten over it. And if he did get over it, then he would definitely be an asshole for not accepting the apology, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, again, so
does that make sense?
Logic, it does very much so. It might not make him an a-hole, but it would speak to weakness, almost cowardice sometimes, laziness. He could be a lot of things. He potentially could be a lot of things. Again, we don't have like too many details about this, so we can't necessarily make too many judgments. I think from a purely very general, very like, all right, is he this or this? He is not that. But I mean, there is a lot of things that he could be at fault for.
Yeah.
And again, he is denying essentially healing for both himself and the guy who bullied him.
Absolutely. So he's a lot of things, but he's not an asshole.
That's actually fair. That's a good point there. He's not allowing the guy who apologized to him to get over his guilt by being like that, which is kind of what he wants in a way, and that's not taking the high road. He's wanting the guy to kind of live with the guilt so that he can make up for all of those years of being bullied.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the whole thing.
In that regard, he is.
He is being
He's
an asshole.
trying to get a dig. Yeah.
I
mean,
I don't think so.
Revenge right there, like he's avenging his situation that happened to him.
Are you saying he's an
So,
Avenger? He's not an asshole. He's just an Avenger.
I think an Avenger would have accepted that apology.
Maybe Captain America, not Iron Man.
Except if it was like between Captain and Iron Man.
Yeah, that's literally the plot of Captain
That's
America:
funny.
Civil War. But like, we don't have the original post, unfortunately. Do you remember if they branded him as an asshole or not?
I can't remember the blankets, but the comments were basically saying that he should have forgiven him.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Well,
Majority of the comments were saying.
I think
So
we
that
hit
would mean
that too.
He would be an asshole.
I got one more for us here. Haven't read through. I kind of just skimmed it a bit, but the title is interesting. Am I the asshole for asking a Tinder match about her pictures? So let's dive into this one.
For asking about her pictures?
Yeah.
Like, what was he asking about them?
Oh, we're about to find out, my young moderates. Here we
Oh,
go.
okay. That was the title.
All right. I swiped right on a profile picture because her first picture was really cute and she had a good bio. We wound up matching. I took another look through her pictures and saw that in some of her later pictures, she looked very overweight. Her initial picture was a close-up of her face. They always do that. Yep. She just looked pretty and at a healthy weight. However, I've been on Tinder dates before where their initial pictures were cute and their later pictures weren't. And the later pictures were how they actually looked on a date. In this case, I decided to ask her if she had lost weight since some of the pictures were taken. She said that the pictures were taken over years ago and that the glasses may have had an effect on her appearance. She was wearing, and then he says in like parentheses, she was wearing glasses in all her overweight pictures. I asked her if her main picture was the most recent one because she was very cute in it. She asked me why that mattered. I explained how I've been deceived before, and her response was that it shouldn't matter how made up she is in the picture, and that I'm projecting insecurities. I then unmatched her, thinking that because she had been so dodgy with her answers, I was right to be so cautious. Am I the asshole? Interesting.
I can see both sides of that.
I could see how he could be an asshole versus how he can't as well. I think if the way he's framing it, I think he came at the situation with a very level head. He's very, very even keeled about why he was asking these questions and his reasons behind them. But if the case where he's just very blunt and like, so you still fat and stuff, like, depends how he framed it in the initial situation as opposed to here. As I wouldn't call him an asshole for this.
There's
I can see that, but also you can't blame the girl in some ways. Like, everybody wants to like get love or whatever you want to call it, and you want to like give yourself the best opportunity to give a good impression.
Right.
So in some ways you can't blame her for doing that, but at the same time, it's a little bit of she's being an asshole for not portraying herself
in a
accurately.
Yeah, I definitely think she's the asshole here. Like, you could tell her motives from she knew which picture she looked the best in, and like the way we all have seen that little. This is me. Ignore the 1,000 pounds below this line, but this is me.
Yeah,
we've all seen those. So she knew what she was doing, and the fact that she got mad and like, well, why? Didn't you know it's good for your joints?
Okay, but yeah. I don't know. I think if this was a normal conversation, you're just walking up to someone, you see they're showing you pictures, and you're like, whoa, you're fat in these ones, you're not fat in these ones. What's going on, sort of thing. That's one thing. But I mean, this is Tinder we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is where people go to find someone to presumably spend a significant portion of their life with from then on, right? Like it's essentially well, okay, maybe not. Maybe if you're like me, that's
there's two extremes to it, I would say, but yeah.
like,
It's like I think
That's
it's
kind
fair
of,
for
you
the
gotta
guy to
come. Yeah, you're saying it's fair. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I think
is.
it's fair
But
for
at the
the guy
same
to
time, you gotta just. That's what Tinder is. That kind of comes with the territory of Tinder, and you gotta expect that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Gotta
So
expect
the
me
guy
to
shouldn't
see.
be getting his hopes up about something like that.
And the way she, like, again, like the way she frames her profile with the best picture front, it that just says she has an understanding of how this thing works. She knows how it works if she knows what steps to take. And the fact
Yeah.
that she was called out, she was confronted with dissenting opinions, she felt entitled to her own little step stool of "you're an asshole" kind of condescension. But I assumed he untagged her.
Was she saying that he was an asshole?
Well, I'm really
I don't know
making
if she
up
was.
some large assumptions here, probably larger than her. But he does say that she asked me why that mattered and stuff.
Mm.
Like,
So we could get into that.
yeah, that's a
too.
dumb question.
Yeah.
It does matter. Some
Well,
people don't like that.
it comes with the territory of Tinder for it comes with the territory of Tinder for the guy, and that we're going to do that. Guys would do that as well, and it comes with the territory for the girl that if you're going to be doing stuff like that, then you're probably going to get called out on it
Yeah.
from somebody. So you just,
And who
I
knows
don't know.
if she
It's a tough one actually. You can see both sides, but I'd say he's not an asshole. That's what I'd say.
I definitely say he's not an asshole. I think though there's a way that if she just had a great personality, maybe she'd be like, yeah, you know what? I like to have fun. Like I like to maybe eat a bit more here and move less over there. If she kind of just owned it, like maybe it could have went a different way for both of them. Like personality makes a big thing instead of like going on the defense all of a sudden. Like I think he was just seeking to find honest reasons and stuff. Because like he said, he compliments her and stuff. He's like, if this is you in the first picture, you're awesome. But don't deceive me, because just in the images alone, very deceiving individual.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true. Like if someone
that's
is
fair. Yeah,
overweight,
that's
that's
a good point.
if someone is overweight, that's not necessarily a like you're dead to me now sort of thing.
Yeah, if you have a great
Um,
personality, who knows?
yeah, right. But lying, I guess we all can tell. You know
Yeah,
that's no,
you
no.
gotta, if you're overweight or not overweight, in an ideal world, you should be representing yourself appropriately and being vulnerable with who you are. If you're not comfortable with being overweight, then do something about it.
Right.
And by her not posting an accurate representation of herself, she wasn't being vulnerable
Shows her
and
insecurities, really.
shows her insecurity, and she's not working, likely, unless she has some thyroid issue, to fix
Not
that
literally, but
overweightness.
Yeah. Well, in that
Hmm.
case, she has to put that as her Tinder bio. Thyroid issues, but I'm still fun. So I think we all agree that she's not an asshole. Or
I'm
I
interested
mean,
to see
the
the
guy.
internet's
The
I
guy
think
opinion.
is not.
she's an asshole. The guy's not an asshole, and we got it right again. Not an asshole. So we're two out of four really, and then there's that fifth one we really don't know how the internet reacted. But yeah, I'm glad that people don't think this guy's an asshole. I mean, the first comment here kind of says like maybe it's not the best to start asking about weight, but then again, like time is precious, and sometimes people just want to move forward. Like walking on eggshells isn't the best for personal interests, societal interests, and relationship interests. You always want to find compromising and answers and everything. And I think this alone.
There's one more thing I could say.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
The guy could have just not responded. Could have just left it alone. I've been like, well, whatever. Just leave that where it is.
Well,
He
he
didn't have to
was.
like.
He had
He
matched
didn't
her.
have to respond to her and be like, is this how you actually look, kind of thing.
Mhm.
He could have just been like, well,
He shouldn't have had to ask that question to begin with. If you look at a profile and it looks like two different people, you're telling me you're not going to ask? Like, which one are you?
If there's that ambiguity to it, just leave it alone. That's one thing that he could have done.
Nah,
He
I don't
could
think
have,
he's an asshole.
but yeah.
But I think this summarizes a lot of everything we talked about this show.
It does actually. That's a.
of being fragile with
actually-
people.
Mhm.
What's the time right now?
Well,
We're actually
one
over 1.5.
35 here, and I think this is definitely coming to a close here. But I like how we have a neat little pin that summarizes everything kind of in the thing. I mean, if he asked her if she was a Nazi by the Wall Street Journal, we really hit a home run here, but unfortunately not.
Yeah.
So, well,
Huh.
this
Okay,
was
Hi,
well,
boys.
should we? Sorry,
that. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, should we close up now then?
Yeah, I think this was episode 2, and give us a little salute there, Sam.
All right, but before I do, all feedback is welcome.
Oh yeah.
Fucking loser.
Goodbye.